for them to know us. Like, it's different when we do these like big shows and, they get kind of like the info, but like the heart stuff is what's really important to me and like that. So let me see if I got us live.
Yeah.
Hey, friends. Did we do it?
Yeah, we're there.
Oh, cool. All right, right on. Hi, friends. I'm going to put it on and just give me a second to mute it. It's like my thing. Hold on. There. Mute. Okay. Hi, guys. I did it. It's always a miracle, Lonnie. There's a fly in here. It's always a miracle. So hi, guys. I'm so excited today because I've been chatting with Lonnie in What's Up Land, and we've been chatting for a couple months, I feel like, and I've like asked you some parenting things and some personal things, and we've been kind of getting to know each other. And so I just felt like it would be a good idea for us to kind of share that level of intimacy, that conversation, just with people that were curious about how we're raising our families right now and keeping ourselves grounded and sane during insane times. And I'm just really inspired, Lonnie, by how you do mommying. I always feel like a really grounded presence from you. And these days that's like, I want to be around people that are like doing that work. And so yeah, that's kind of my intro. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's good that you're doing this. Like my series, just talking to everyday people, just as though we're in like a living room, right? We're just having tea together. This would be a discussion we would have if we were in person. And it can be relatable on so many levels for so many people. So why not record them and share just normal everyday conversations, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which is what I think has been so attractive about both of us. And I think why people are feeling it, because we're just trying to put ourselves out there in a way that's authentic and, to share what's actually happening, not what like we think should be happening or what could be happening if we were better or whatever. It's just like, look, this is what's going on. And like you just shared with me, like it's time for their screen time. And I was like, yeah, that's what we've been trying to put in. Like, okay, this is a structure to our day, because now that there's like, we had school or like a community thing. So we knew from 10 to 2 every day, the kids were like doing that. And there was that routine. And I know that so many people, we're going to start the conversation around structure, have really been not so interested in structure, or like really afraid of that word and wanting it to be like super flexible and open. And I think that what we're trying to do over here is to find that balance between structure and flexibility. And that was something that you shared with me a while ago, like just take your kids out. Like we just got back from the creek, and like after my coaching call, I had like an hour and a half, and I was like, well, let's go. And we went up to the creek and we swam a little bit, and then we picked up the trash. And then Danny and I switched, and I came here to hang out with you. But it's just so that like every day the kids have a sense of like what they can expect. And I think that's really helpful, don't you? I mean, then just like, what are we doing today? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it depends on the child too. So I firmly believe in child-led parenting and child-led learning in all levels. So that started with me from the moment I was pregnant, and it went into how I gave birth, and it went into how long I breastfed, whether I had my kids in the bed with me, whether I vaccinated, whether I did this and that. It's all just intuitive and it's child-led, right? So I have one child who's 9 right now who thrives on the structure. Like seriously, he's telling me what time of day it is and what that means to him. Okay, it's 9:03 now, like 9:03 every morning is when he goes outside. So this morning, for example, he's like, yeah, Mom, I need my nails clipped or whatever, right? And I always encourage him to do it himself, but no, he's not ready for that. So fine, I do it. But I was folding some laundry. I said, I'm going to fold the laundry first, and then we'll cut your nails. So when I was done folding laundry, I said, hey, I'm ready now for you. And he said, no, it's like past 9:03. Like I have to go outside now. So I was like, okay, catch you later then. He's like, how about at 9:50? When I come back in at 9:50, that's when I come back in, because he always comes and checks the time. So it's, that might be kind of rare for a child, but that is just an example of how everybody's different. Whereas my daughter, my 7-year-old, I could just like on the drop of a dime say, hey, let's just drop everything. Let's go to the beach or the park. And she'd be like, yeah, let's do it. And she'd start packing what we need for the park and we'd go. Whereas my son would be like, no, we can't go to the park right now because it's like, it's not time. It's like, it's fun, right?
It is fun. It's fun to get to know them as they get older too. And I find like I just want to respect them. Like I want to respect who they are and try to be the least amount of like crazy around them. You know what I mean? Like I don't want sometimes I feel that my own process or like whatever I'm going through is somehow like going to affect them, and especially now that we're around each other so much, whereas like that's been a challenge for me, whereas there was space, so it was like okay, I knew that this was time for me to get whatever I needed to get done, my own work. I had a little bit more privacy, but now that we're kind of all in the same space, it's like wow, they're a part of everything more in a different way. And I want to respect their childhood and their freedom, but I also feel that it's okay for them to get to know what we're going through, you know, like especially with my 7-year-old, like she asks really poignant questions, like, you know, like if we we're talking about diet or even about community or money or relationships, like she's really, really bright. And so I'm just trying to like tell her the truth. And I feel like that's respectful. Like just say it how it is and not try and sugarcoat it too much. And there's that, like, I don't know if it's my ego that's like, oh, you're taking away her childhood, or you should like fluff this up a little bit, you know, if we're talking about the diet, for example. And she's such a sensitive being. Like she hit a plant on accident and a leaf fell off and she started to cry and she's like, but the plant's alive. And I heard it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's fine. But that's how she is. So like with the diet, she really got that those were animals. Like, and so that for her, she doesn't get why other people aren't getting that. And she's also conflicted because she's loving those people still, you know, and which is appropriate. Like you're supposed to still love them. But she gets frustrated, and I feel her frustration with like, why aren't they getting this? Like, and when did we start eating meat? And so I told her the Adam and Eve story about like separation and taking over things. And I find her really maturing very quickly since she's now been with us, you know, in the last, it's been like 5 or 6 weeks, like a lot of growth has happened. And I'm just needing to really trust myself as a parent, you know, and I think that that's like huge because, you know, I trusted the professionals that like when how to education, how to raise kids, or I trusted my parents or like whatever. And really shifting that to myself has been a real just transformation for me to be like, wait, I know this. This is my kid. Like I can do this, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be so complicated. You know, we think parenting has to be so complicated. We need all these books, and oh my gosh, we're not perfect. Oh my gosh, I lost it today. Oh my gosh, I did this. We're so hard on ourselves because we're figuring we have to be in some kind of box. It's really quite simple. It all comes down to common sense parenting, common sense living. You know, staying connected, of course, to God is huge. He'll always inspire us and put us on the direction and the path He wants us, you know, to be on. So, as far as kids, you said you just trusting yourself as a parent. I say yes, do that. Always trust yourself, especially if you're connected to God. But trust our kids. Okay. Oh, they want to go and do this. Oh, but no, you can't do that because it's not safe or whatever from our own past experiences or whatever, right? Well, why can't they're wanting to try something and that's how they're going to learn. So our only responsibility as a parent is just to be there. We don't have to be telling them how to do something, what to do, when to do it. It's to be there for their basic needs. And the older they grow, the further they're going to kind of grow away from us. And that's normal, but they'll always still come back for those needs. I'm a busy mother. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm doing, you know, my life shows and things like that too. I'm busy. So I'm doing this kind of thing a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And my kids are around me, you know, they're around me in the background, maybe drawing pictures, or maybe someone falls, then I just have to mute the button and just hold them for a second, and then they're off again. I mean, it can be that simple. I don't have to drop everything that I'm doing for me as an individual to put into and feel really super responsible for someone else's happiness or learning or this and that. It's really simplistic. So parents, take the load off. Seriously, it can be that simple. You should be living your own life that's directed by God, so you can be doing your purpose in this life that's separate from your children, and just be available for your children as they need you.
That was something I wanted to ask you. And so I'm so glad you said that. Like, how do you balance your life? Like, sometimes I feel like my kids are needy, like, especially right now, because they're so used to being stimulated or like having activities or having a lot of friends around. And so now it's like they're in the middle of the countryside and they're kind of like, what do I do? And so I'm trying to be like, go outside, but I still have my life. Like, I still have my shows and like my coaching and, all of the things. And so I know guilt is so toxic. Like, I teach on this all the time, but like, wow, have I found myself being like guilty that I know what I'm doing today and they don't know what they're doing today, and feeling responsible to like create some kind of structure or sequence for them because I have mine,
Yeah.
Does that make sense too? It's like, so I love how you're like, yeah, like I'm available, but like, this is what you're doing. But I'm a busy mom too. And I think that a lot of us are. And these times have been really altering for so many people because a lot of our go-tos are gone as it relates to like entertaining the kids or keeping them busy and things like that.
Yeah. 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 So just again, not being too hard on ourselves, because energy is everything. So energetically, our kids are picking up on our energies. So if we're just feeling guilt and things like that, then they're going to be maybe more needy and things like that. Not that that's what's happening with you, but just from the things that you've said, that could have something to do with it. Just being there though is the consistency that they need, and the confirmation that they need, and the confidence they need to be able to just be creative beings. And it's not ignoring them. It's just letting them know energetically that you have your boundaries for what you're doing right now. You need to be uninterrupted. Like my son, he's the one that's very on time with everything. Mom, it's 6:00. What's for dinner? Kind of thing. I'm like, well, I'm in the middle of doing something, so why don't you figure it out? What do you think should be for dinner? Why don't you start something? Just make a bowl of cereal. Go help yourselves, right? And then he'll be like, no, I can't do that or whatever. So then, when I'm done with what I'm doing, then I'll go into the kitchen and I'll prepare something. It's that simple, right? There's no conflict. There's no this or that. They figure it out. It's like, oh, okay, well, I don't feel like making something for myself, so I guess I'll just have to wait. And then they go off and find something to do. The nice thing about my youngest two right now, for those of you that don't know, I have 4 kids. 2 of them are teenagers. One has actually moved out of the house already. He has his own beautiful life going on. And I have a 17-year-old daughter, and then I have my youngest 2. So I forget what I was going to say about them though.
7-year-old.
What was I going to say, Marie?
You were going to talk about your 7.
Oh,
the good thing about your 7-year-old.
No, I don't think I was going to say anything about the 7-year-old. But anyways, I lost the thought.
That's okay.
It's okay. I'm a mom.
You're a mom, and you've got so many moving parts. And I think, in terms of boundaries, that's a big one. Like letting them know, like, you're available when you're available, and detaching from any kind of emotional feedback that they might have around that, and letting them have their kind of own process around it. Like you basically offer them the decision to decide what they want to do. Like, well, if you want something for dinner now, you can create it, or you can wait until I'm ready to support you. Like, it's very detached. It's very simple. I like that approach.
Yeah. And it's not, that's what I was going to kind of say, I guess, was it's not really ignoring them. But in a way it kind of is, when it's not something they really need from you, right? Like, come on, they're just bored. I'm bored. What do I do or whatever? Then that's when I don't give them my attention. It's like putting attention into anything that's negative. It'll only grow, right? So why do it? I just don't fall for it. I don't do it. When they come to me with, genuine energy, they have my full attention. So if it's like, I'm bored, what do I do? I won't feed into it. And then off they go. And before you know it, they're drawing, or they figured out something to do, right? Whereas if I would have gave that attention and fed that energy, then I would have been there forever going, well, why don't you try this? Well, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that?
Right.
No, no, no. And it's like, it's a waste of everybody's energy. It was just so energetically toxic, I guess we could say, right? If we're talking that kind of language. So it's another good lesson for our kids to not
Yeah.
engage in things that are kind of low level vibrations. Yeah.
Right. Wow. I think our children, I mean, I just get so excited around like who they're becoming, being raised like this. Like, this is not the way I was raised, and it's not like out of judgment. I'm not going to go into like my issues, my family or anything. I love them so much, but it's so different. It's like the exact opposite. So in so many ways of the way that I was raised, of just like this level of freedom, like even as it relates to school, like, I don't know if you're turn off my stuff, like keeping track of like where they should be in the system with all of that. Like, I mean, I do a little bit of math and reading and writing with my daughter who's 7 because she's asking for it and she loves it. But it's not something I'm like, okay, like we have to sit down and do this. And that's a really different thing, from a lot of us that were raised like having to go to school every day and do our assignments and fit into those boxes. Like, so these children, like, wow, who are they going to be when they grow up is just exciting for me to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Just imagine being in a school, in a facility for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week for 12 or 13 years. How that is training somebody. And that's what we are. We're a result of that. So now that we know that and we're doing the unlearning, we have this beautiful opportunity to gift our children that freeness to just be who they are meant to be. They don't have to go through all the work in undoing everything. They get to just go for that right now in who they are and connecting with that and figuring it out, trying things and figuring out what makes them rock and roll and things like that. So it's a beautiful process. And so that's why, again, like even my kids are home with me. Even my unschooling philosophy, like I said, where it started from pregnancy, it's all child-led. It's based on their interests. I don't sit down with them and go, okay, we're doing math and science and whatever now. We're not following a curriculum. It's like my daughter got a gift a few months back for her birthday about these gems and geodes and things. And she just yesterday found interested in and pulled it out and was working on it all day diligently and with the hammer and the thing and for 2 hours straight and did that. And that's really how it goes. And then my son the other day, if he asks about math, he really loves math, right? So if I'm like, do you want me to write you up some math questions? Yes, please. So I will, and then he'll focus on that. And it's just as it goes, right? It's like, okay, what are you interested in today? Oh, sign language. Okay, let's pull up something and let's learn some sign language. That's what my daughter and I do together. But it can be that fun and that simple, like I said, and letting them go, cutting those ties of, like I said, feeling responsible for their learning and who they're becoming. You're already there. You're already doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're a nurturer and you're there for them. That's all you need to be. Now they need to realize that they can step away from the mama's nest and be separate from us in a way that they have to find out who they are. And that's where the exploring and the beauty comes in. That's why we need to observe the children, because it's such a beautiful process that ours was cut short. That part of our lives, right? Yeah.
It's probably why I'm a little tender around like that boundary and that border of like, how honest to be with them. Like, it sounds silly even saying that. Like, I want to be, totally honest with them, but it's like I find myself saying things to a 7-year-old that I'm like, that was interesting. I can't believe we're really having this conversation. But she gets it, and she's so deep. Like, it's just very inspiring to see how this can be normal and natural, and just like allowing the days to unfold as they're unfolding, and just being sure that we all, like, I make sure that I create the space that I need for myself to kind of be able to be fully present, and just reminding myself that it's not a performance. Like, this is just life. Like, this is every day, and can we have the best day that we can today? And is that enough for the children? It was like, coming out of the matrix of like all of the stimulation and, even being in cities at times and like having excursions and all this of just like really slowing things down to let's spend 3 hours at the creek and just throw rocks in the creek. And like that, what are they learning? Well, energetically, they're learning how to be present. And what do we learn from all of the teachers right now that we're attracted to is that presence is where all the information is anyway. So if they're learning how to be present, then that is what it's about. Like then anything that they need to know or want to know is kind of just the icing on top, like they know how to be with themselves. And that's what I'm learning how to do too, but also just really loving watching them doing it and watching my struggle with that as well. I'm like, wow, this is really healing me as I'm unlearning, they're learning what's important. As I'm unlearning what's not important, they're learning what is. It's like,
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. And it can be quite overstimulating when there's too many activities to do. I know that that's how a lot of parents feel, is that they have to have their children booked from day to night or morning to night, so that they feel like they're successful parents, but they feel like then their kids are like fulfilled. Kids need downtime just like we do, right? Like I can go in my room at any time and close my door and my kids know what that means. I need to do some meditation or something. They just know now. I've trained them basically to know what that means, even down to just being quiet in the house at that time or whatnot. So again, following the leads, following your heart and what's right. Overstimulation is not good for anybody. We need the time to unwind and to be self-soothing, I guess, right? Having those tools, and skills that like where boredom doesn't exist. I mean, boredom is good. Boredom is fine. It's healthy. It's normal. But it's up to each individual to figure out what to do in that feeling of boredom or whatnot. And so you have to just like let them figure it out. It might be a little challenge for a couple days or a couple minutes, but it's just say, hey, it's not right. When they come to you and say, Mom, I'm bored, what can I do? Hey, I don't know. It's not my responsibility. I mean, I could give you a list of these 10 things that you could do, but, I already know you're not going to, we both know that you're not going to do them. So, it's not my responsibility. So, go on, come back to me and show me what you create an hour from now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But you guys are doing really well, Marie and Danny. You guys are doing really well, and you're transitioning, and you're just like you said, you're unlearning while they're new learning, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Yeah. So just have patience with yourself for sure. You're doing just a fine job.
Yeah. Thank you. It's getting easier and easier, and even just them not being around children all the time, I think has been in a way really good for them. Like I think I spoke to you about that a couple months ago. That was my biggest fear, was that like, oh my gosh, what about all their friends? And they were so intertwined with those relationships. But I'll tell you what, Lonnie, my daughter especially, like I've noticed such a difference in her, even physically. Like I think because she's so empathic and she's so emotional, and she feels like she'll feel sad. She'll say to me, Mommy, I feel so sad. Like we saw a kid yesterday at the creek. Where's his mommy? Is he by himself? I'm like, honey, he's fine. His parents, he's having a great time. But she's very like that. And so I think with her friends, she was taking on a lot of their discomfort and emotion and not really knowing how to process that. And I noticed that since she's been out, like she's almost like her puffiness, like she was emotionally taking on more, like she's slimming out in a way that I can see her, like now she's just got to deal with her emotions, right? And the emotions of the community here to a certain extent, and how she's relating to other people, and her wanting to play and then maybe not wanting to play in that moment and feeling rejected, or so she's really learning that kind of stuff. But children, I think, she was acting out like a lot of other kids too. And I remember Charlie saying to me at some point, like, it was Amber. He said, we can't let her fall in love with a meat eater. like we we can't let this happen, Marie. And I was like, oh, you're right, but it's kind of funny that, we're joking about it, but that she was so in love with everybody that she really was taking on emotions that weren't necessarily hers. And I'm seeing her kind of deflate in a way where she can focus more on her own stuff, and we're more intimate with each other. Whereas before, I think she depended on her friends a lot, for information and for comfort and for attention, really, because she's like a little bit of a, she's a star.
Just like her mama. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely how it goes with having kids home with us instead of being at school. It's another stigma about unschooling or homeschooling. That's the first thing people say in family. Well, what about socialization? And it's like, I've always said, well, socialization is socializing, period. Why does it have to be just with the same age kids? Like, it has to be your peers. That's the most important thing. No. Oh my gosh. Socialization is taking your kids to the grocery store with you. Socializing with the people in the store, the cashier or whatnot. That's socialization. When mom and dad have people come over to the house, that's socialization. Like, you're going to be interacting. Like, I don't send my kids away when I have company or something. Like in the olden days, I know families that did that. It's like, kids, get outside or go in the room or whatever. Like, you can't, basically they can't be part of this socialization because they're kids or whatever. It's just giving them equal opportunity, really, because what they have to say and speak and feel really matters too. And even more so, when kids have questions, some people find it's, an annoyance or something. But their questions are beautiful. And if we're, oh, can you explain it again or something like that? So then just maybe take it down a notch. But kids can take the truth. Kids can take the truth. And that's another thing we've been taught to not do, is like, let's protect our kids from certain things and not say certain words around them and not talk about certain things. It's like, why make everything so secret and like taboo? Because that really messes with the child more than anything, right? But how are we doing with that? There's a lot of people in the chat. Hey.
Yeah. Lots of fun stuff going on in the chat. Everybody's telling us we're doing great. It's lovely to hear. It really is. Anybody has any questions for either of us, go ahead and pop them in there. We're happy to like steer this conversation in a direction that you want it to go. As long as we don't have to talk about, really crazy things.
Are you planning on having any more kids, Marie?
Am I planning on having
more kids?
More kids? No. Although, now that I'm into this frugivore thing and I've finally figured out how to take care of my physical body, I have had moments where I'm like, I'd love to do it again. I'd love to nurse. I'd love to go through that whole thing, but it was actually quite traumatic for me. Everything I say was like fun and games until about 6 months. And then I took on a size proportionally for my stature that was I was just uncomfortable. And as a yogi, I was just so aware of my body changing in ways that I was like, and I was eating all the junk and it was gross. So thank God they came out as healthy as they did, both of them. But after Adam was born, I was like, we're good, right? And Danny was like, yeah, we're good. So he had a little, but that's always reversible. And who knows? I mean, I'm 41 though, so there's that. But who knows how true that is also. I mean, I really feel like I'm healthier than I've ever been. You know what I mean? Like, how is that possible? Even like young, like when I was my kids' ages, like I remember being 7 and just feeling sick a lot of the time. Like getting in the car, automatically feeling sick, always having stomach aches, always having headaches. It was the food. Like I was just like super sensitive. And now I have so much energy. And, it was really sweet, Lonnie. We had baby Dante here yesterday, Shani's son. And I was like, for me, babies are like, oh my God, baby. Like, oh my God. So please, all of you mamas, have babies and bring them to me because I love babies so much. And we had a nap in the hammock, him and I, that was so divine and so healing. I was like, this baby, I mean, he's so beautiful. All of them are, but it was such a treat. And I really thought about that because I had my other kids with, it was just me and the kids, all day. And it was like seeing them interact with a baby too was really, really darling. But
Yeah.
how old were you with your last two? I don't know. Is 41 too old?
Yeah, I think with Sula, she's 7 years old now, and I'm 40. I'm either 47 or 48. So I had her when I was 40 or 41.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's possible. I was really sick though. That pregnancy was my only pregnancy that was not intended, and I had developed a hyperthyroid issue and Graves' disease. So my eyes were starting to bulge and just weird things. I was getting really sick. Um, and then they put me on this really harsh because it was just accelerating so fast. They put me on this really harsh medication just to offset it. So I didn't have to have any surgeries or weird things like that going on. It was just such a scary time. And then after I started these horrific meds, I learned I was pregnant. And then I researched like the meds, and it's like, all these deformities can happen or whatever in a child. So I even considered like aborting the child because I was so scared. But what I did was obviously reached out to the caregiver or whatever, and they switched the meds for women that were pregnant or whatever. And my Graves and thyroids cleared up almost immediately. And then I went off with them sooner than normal, but my thyroid got back to normal like almost immediately. I'm very blessed and very fortunate for that because that doesn't happen for most people. So I had a normal pregnancy, like I said, I had to deal with a few things early on there, just really, really scared. And it was the first time I ever had an ultrasound in any of my pregnancies early on, just to see if everything, just to confirm. And everything was fine, and I wasn't on the meds anymore. So I was like, yeah, I'm fine with this. I can go back to the way I did with all my other children through the pregnancies. I just, did it all myself. No doctors, no midwives, even for the most case, and just birthed at home. But that did take a lot out of me being that sick. And then I had some big flu with a huge cough for like 2 weeks before I actually gave birth. So I was really depleted on so many levels. But I still stayed home, still birthed the child, my little Sula. But it was the hardest birth, let me tell you. It was really challenging, but I did it.
You sure did. You did a great job. Wow. That's so inspiring. I think that was what I was so surprised about with pregnancy, just the fear. Like I was so afraid that something bad was going to happen. And it was next level fear. It was ancient. It was like all the fear of all the mothers all at once. And I had struggled with miscarriages before Ruby, and then blessed with two children. So I just felt like I was like counting my lucky stars and ready to move on. But I think that the more I heal myself and the more empowered I get, the more connected I am to the mother, the more I'm excited about the future. And I feel like now, just in terms of community, like I can be a strong advocate for the mamas, and I can hold space for that pregnancy, and then obviously help out with the baby, please, because they're so precious. And there's a smell. Everybody knows all of this, but it just really was such a privilege for me to be with one yesterday. I was like, wow, I missed it. It's such a tender time. And it really reminded me too, in the beginning of like my first, being a mom, when the baby was actually out, like, and just the miracle of creation, like that happened, and what did I really do? Like to make the baby grow? I didn't do anything but try and stay out of its way, and that I didn't even do very well, but it was just, and still like seeing Dante yesterday, it was just like, what a blessing, like what a miracle, like his fingers, like, and the little chub around the fingernail, like how does that like happen? So cute. And then just the intensity of why I got so involved in this movement, that it just to even think for a second anything negative could happen, like that was never on my radar. And then just, yeah, it just woke up this energy within me that was like, no, you know? And that's what I think, that we're circling back to the creation and the miracle of creation and really treasuring that. And yeah, it's such a privilege. I look at my kids, like we're all sharing one room right now. So there's 4 of us in one room, and the kids are in one bed, and Danny and I are in the other. And I watch them sleeping in the night, like go like a creepy mother, just like, wow, look at these guys. Like, it's like I can watch them grow. Like Ruby's grown like 2 inches since we've been here or something. Like they're growing, and they're learning how to interact with adults, and they're maturing so rapidly. And it's just such a gift. It's such a gift.
Do they like to help in the kitchen with like the juicing process or anything like that? What do they like to help with in the day?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they're the most helpful children. I think that's something that, we're definitely working on. What do they like to help with? They do like juicing, especially if it's watermelons. They're not into the press so much. They'll help like cleaning up their things and stuff, but I'm still very much, it's me being like, it's just easier for me to do it. And I need to slow down. I'm still learning how to slow down. Like part of why I wanted to come to the countryside was my next level too, of being slow and present and simplified, and being like, we're going to spend an hour and a half juicing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to, in my former life, I had a lot of help. Like I had a lot of support, and here it's like, it's us. And yes, we have the community, but I can't depend on that too much. And, but they really want to interact. I find that they're very interactive. They have lots of great questions.
Yeah. And that's good. Questions are good, right? We're all testament to that right now in these days, that questioning everything is super uber important. So even if their questions, get redundant or whatnot, just deal with it in the way, again, with respect to yourself, knowing that their questions are valid. But if that's enough now, like, you got to show your boundaries. Okay, question and answer time is over. Let's resume it again tomorrow. It's okay. We're not putting our kids down when we have boundaries. We're actually empowering them when we show them we have boundaries. No, this isn't a good time for me to play. Stop, putting that toy in my face and, whatever.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, cool. So you can't see her. She's invisible right now, but my daughter's here. She was just.
Hi to Sula. Does she want to say hi to Ruby? Ruby just walked in. Say hi.
Oh, did she?
Ruby just walked in.
Hi, Ruby.
You look wet.
Say hi.
Hi.
You smell really good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. She just came back from the creek, Sula. There's this little fly that's
Cool.
yeah, cool. Why don't you guys hook up on Messenger later? Me and Lonnie are having a little conversation. We're talking about you guys. Talking about how much
you
we
guys
love our daughters and how amazing they are. And
yeah, exactly. How we love them doing our hair. Oh my gosh. I pay my daughter to brush my hair sometimes.
really,
Can
I
you brush
pay
my hair?
my hair.
What? To not touch your hair? I'm like, okay, how much do you want this time?
We could just like trade kids so she, because I don't like touching her hair and she likes touching your hair.
That's a good idea, Sula. We could just trade girls.
At some point, we'll hang out all together, and it will be really fun. We'll drink juice and braid hair and do all that.
Yeah, it'll be cool. So I have a story about Sula. So it's interesting because like they hear me listening to things about juicing, and I was doing a juice feast, and I juice every day, my first meal anyways. So, my 9-year-old, he just like, okay, I'm going to do a juice feast, or whatever. And, maybe one day I said, yeah, you could do up to 3, but yeah, start with one day and see how that goes. If you want to do a second, then that's great. Right. And that's the thing too, again, everybody's so different because, my 9-year-old son, he went through the whole day, like me and Sula didn't. But Ronan did. Like he committed. He wasn't tempted by anything else that we were doing or eating or whatnot. You know, maybe a little bit, but it's like, no. And I said, at the end of the day, I said, like, I'm so proud of you. Do you know that that's like a superpower, to have that kind of will power? It's a superpower to not let anything sway you from what you committed to do in a day. Beautiful thing. And then just recently, Sula, she wanted to do an orange, like drink just orange juice all day. And that went really well. She did it. She got through the whole day. Very proud of her and stuff. But in the middle of the night, about 3 or 4, she started puking, and then she puked a few more times in that early morning. And I reached out to Tony. I'm like, yeah, this is what happened. And she's like, well, did she prepare for it though? And I'm like, no, not really. Right. So then I talked to Sula about it and said, you know, if we're going to do this again, yeah, we got to at least maybe do some different juicing, not just orange juice, or prepare the day before with smoothies and things like that. But now she won't eat oranges anymore. So,
Yeah, well, that's a bummer. She might come back around. I'm taking a break from oranges too right now. For what I've been on oranges for like 8 months, and I just cannot drink a glass of orange juice right now. Like, I don't know what's happening, and I never got sick or anything from it, but I just needed a pause, so I can feel that. And Ruby's done a few days like that as well, but
Watermelon juice.
with watermelon is a little bit
Better.
for us, it's a little bit less
Better.
acidic. Here you go.
yeah.
And it's just a different vibe. I mean, watermelons just are a little bit lighter and pink. I don't know, it's like they're just so pink and happy. But she's doing great, and Adam too. But I find that they're cleansing a lot. Like, they really are. They're you know, they're moving it really good. And I just feel like if they want to have something at this point, like, you know, we have some Ezekiel bread in the house, or if they want to have rice and beans and things like that, like, I'm like, that's fine. Given I've eaten like crap for 40 years, you know, they're going to be fine. It's just that they're starting and they have this awareness at this age. It's incredible. It's really, it's a miracle. We're just going to keep focusing on what we're doing right. That's my message to myself and to anyone else who needs to hear it. Like, just focus on what we're doing right, because it's a lot. Like, it's a lot. It really is.
Yeah. And the detoxing that we have to do is completely a whole different scenario. So the foods you are going to have around the house that the kids can just help themselves to and stuff, it's not going to be like when we were growing up. You know, I remember that like Kraft plastic cheese, like we'd grab those take them out of the plastic and eat those. Like, we would eat those for snacks. And I remember going to birthday parties at McDonald's, and probably going to McDonald's at least once a week. Just shit, right? Where, you know, our kids have a better start, right? Because we already know now, okay, not what to put in the kids' bodies. So they don't have some big detox process like we do. But so I have a question for you. So what are your goals as a mom? Like, what are some things that you would like to see yourself transitioning or changing as being a
mom? I think, I mean, I'm in it right now. I'm just transitioning into just more confidence that I've got this. Like, I'm really starting to feel it. I really question myself, especially, you know, in terms of this movement and some of the things that I've done online and how that affected my family. I didn't consider that, you know, I took no thought. And, you know, I talked to people recently, like, you know, doing more one-to-ones with people in this community, and people saying to me like, well, you know, I don't want to come on public. So like that's partly why I put together this private course, because there was a lot of people in this community that don't want to be online, like don't necessarily want their friends and family and communities to know that they're resonating with this material. And so as a mother, I think just really rebuilding my confidence around this was a good thing, like this was the right thing. And I know that intrinsically, like I really do know that. And I'm stepping more into that, but it's been very, it's just been deep. It's been a deep one. And I think just me healing at this level, really knowing that that's not like, damaging my kids or anything like that. Like if I, talking, for example, about my cancer tumor, or like them knowing why I'm so serious about this, and what it means, to our family, and also, what one last thing about that in terms of confidence is that because this is so different than the training that I've received, it's a lot about just embracing the woman that I've become, and that being like something that I celebrate rather than like criticize or judge myself. I still deal with some of that stuff when I look at, the family that I came from and how they're doing life and how different I am, and that's not new. That's been going on since I was a child. But with the children, it became more evident that I wasn't, it's like I said on a show recently, sometimes I wish I could just be that woman that like didn't sell my house in Ohio, that was like all set up to have this like very suburban life and sweet and do it that way. Like there's a part of me that's like, God, why couldn't I just do that? But that wasn't my past. So it's a lot about self-acceptance and allowing my journey and its uniqueness to completely flourish without trying to dim it. And that's where I'm at right now. Is like, sometimes I just want to crank up the light as high as I can. And then interacting in a lot of different communities that doesn't really work. Like I'm trying to figure out that middle ground. I don't know if any of that made sense, but that's what came through.
Well, whatever. It's about brainstorming. So any questions that people bring up to us and we start answering it, we're brainstorming right at that moment. So whatever comes out, it's going to help you answer the questions for yourself. And I have another question. So regarding like the family and friends issues that you've been having, where there's been a stigma around you and your choices and people have been kind of shunning you, how honest are you with the kids about what's going on with that when they have questions about, oh, what's happening with, or?
I had to be honest. I just didn't know how not to. So I was really upfront, specifically with my daughter, just around what happened, because it had to do with her. She was a huge part of it. Like, it was realizing like the reason I had the children in that program is because I knew that they were safe emotionally, that they were respected. But when I realized that wasn't the case, that she was made to feel bad because she wasn't respecting other kids' opinions around food. Whereas I said to her, honey, you told the truth. Like, that's the truth. That is a dead animal. Even the people that are upset about that have to admit that that's the truth, because that's what it is. And so I said to her, like, what was upsetting for me about how so-and-so handled it was that they made you, they thought you should feel bad about that. And I don't think you should feel bad about telling the truth. And we have a responsibility, once we know things, to do things differently. Once you know better, you have to do better. And so that's what we're doing. And we wanted to be leaders in this community, and they didn't want that. They didn't want to be challenged in that way. And that's okay. That's their decision, but we can't fit into that paradigm anymore. And so basically I told her, and you know what? She really got it. Like, she got it. She was sad that she didn't get to see her friends or even say goodbye. Like, it was such a harsh 1, 2, 3 switch. I mean, it was super intense, but I think she gets it. I really do. And so we were just totally upfront and honest about it. And that I didn't, there wasn't any communication. Like, it was very interesting. If you say something like, very simply, like, people were saying to me, well, you've changed so much. And I'm like, I haven't really changed. I'm just saying that, like, if you eat dead animals, you become acidic. And if you eat live foods, you become alkaline. And if you're acidic, you're slowly dying. And if you're alkaline, you're alive. Like, those are pretty easy and simple facts. And so for people to come back at you and say how inconsiderate you are for saying that, you kind of get to a place where you're like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Like, because that's not how I roll. And so she knows that, like, that's and she'll learn that. And I think that they might not really fit in. Who's to say how that's going to go, or if we're ever going to want to fit in with the matrix again? But they are pretty aware. My son, not so much, because he's still, in his Tarzan. Like he'll ask about his friends now and then, but I don't think he got it as deeply as Ruby did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the truth. And
where, yeah, there is a certain age where they become something a little bit different, less attached, I guess. They start becoming separate from you. And so Ruby's already there, but Adam, so it's easier to change things up in a child's life when they're young. As we know, we're not good with changes either. And just as some kind of final thoughts, I just want to say that, anything that I ever share about parenting or being on this show here with you, or any parents that they share, it's still not perfect. If you were in my home, what I say might sound really great and resonate, but it's not always perfect. Of course, we still have our moments where I might, be short or whatever with the kids, or they might have some kind of fight, which thank God these two get along so well. I'm so blessed, because my eldest two, they used to do that, right? But anyways, it's just about keeping yourself authentic and not putting so much burden on yourself about, oh, I fail. I'm failing as a mother because this is happening, or because she said this or did this. We have to remind ourselves that every being, even our children, are separate entities. They come here with their own purpose, with their own things, their own connections to God and whatnot. So we can't be responsible or take responsibility for that. And I just want to say one more thing, that I live in a really small community, and as we know, small communities are pretty tight, especially if you were born and raised here, that kind of thing, which a lot of people are here. Very close-knit community here. There was an 18-year-old here just died like 5 days ago in a suddenly in a car accident. And so it's devastating to a small community, and it's devastating to both of my teens, because he was friends with both of my teenagers. So, we're having a service, and they're having a service this weekend and things. So my son's coming back. I'll get to see him. That's always nice, but it's going to be really tough. So that's another thing I've been going through this week as a parent, even with teenagers and an adult in this case. You still are there. They still, are coming to you at this time and trying to figure things out. My 17-year-old daughter, for example, one night we stayed up, and I just kept staying there as long as she had something to say. I just kept staying in her space, because normally it's like, grr, she'll give me a grr look, and I'll know to just, okay, I'll back away very slowly. But yeah, it's just really interesting. And it's just a continuing thing, just being there, and they will always come. They will always come for those hugs, for that advice, or just that ear of listening, or just being that presence. So just be that presence. That's all you need to be. Yeah.
Wow. That's so beautiful, Lonnie. And it's so true. It's so true. That's the biggest gift out of all of this, is that, someone in the chat had said, like, who was it, Jennifer? And there are those of us who heard the call, but we're afraid and wish we had done things more like you did, Marie. It's like, I did it for all of us. Like, I really feel that way. And I can see that making those hard decisions and being present and knowing that it was going to be good, even though it was going to be hard, it was going to be good. And being present to her and to me and to our family, and just staying with it, staying with the hard decision and moving into it, is giving them just the comfort of knowing that I'm there for them, even if it's hard. Like, you're there right now for your kids. Like, this is a hard thing. And it's not all, unicorns and fairies and frolicking. A lot of the times life is heavy and intense, and there are things to process. And we want our kids to know that we're the number one, like, God is number one, but like that we're there for them, to help them to connect to God, so that they're always comforted in the times of trouble. And I think that that's more than anything what I've learned through this, that like, sometimes you have to make hard decisions in life, and and you just do it, knowing that someone's got your back. God, the creator of everything's got your back, and I've got your back. Beautiful children of light. And I think always reminding them of the truth of who they are is what we're up to a lot in this family. So even if there is short words or frustration or whatever it is, annoyance, always recovering real quick and being like, look, that was me being super tired right now. And I love you and you're doing great. And this is us learning about boundaries. And this is us learning about, what everyone needs in this space and things like that. So it's a lot about communication. And it's like you said, I think you said this, don't talk to your kids like they're like, talk to your kids. Like, not like, oh, no. Like, be yourself with the children, be real. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I know Danny is too. And I know you are too, Lonnie.
Yeah, we're all doing an amazing job because our intentions are pure and good. We want what's best for everybody. So that in itself is all a person needs to do and be, right? Just be that. Be present and let go of the shit. Okay. If we act out in a way that's, not, calm or whatever, if we feel like we fell off some balance, that's completely normal. So let's just look at it that way and then let it go and not dwell on it or feel guilt with it, because the guilt is what kills us, really. Like, literally.
It's so toxic, so acidic. Guilt, I can feel it now. I can feel when my lymph slows down, like I'm getting so in touch with things. And emotions are, it's just as potent as food, I really think. So it's like really staying away from those emotions, and when they come, alchemizing them as quick as they can. What are you here to teach? Okay, I got it. All right, I'm moving on. I'm doing it. It's like, I think that's what marrying the diet and the taking no thought lessons accelerate this, and I think that's why my life got accelerated and I blasted through some harder things like really quick, because I had to, I knew where I wanted to go. I knew what you asked me earlier, like where I wanted to go as a mom. Well, I couldn't do that while sending my kids off for 4 hours a day in a place where I knew that they were loved and there was so much fun and so much goodness there too, like so much gratitude. I want to say that because I really am so grateful for that. But when it really came down to it, it was that I wanted to be with my kids and I wanted them to be around people that were going to tell them the truth and not teach them, that everybody can have their own truth. On some level, okay, everybody can, that's true, like you have free will, but the essence of things is really important. And I didn't realize that. I really didn't until I started this journey. Like, I just didn't. I was of the mind that, yeah, everybody can have their own truth. And if you want to dress up like a girl and like I was going in that route too. I think a lot of us were, until it really came down to like, wow, am I really a conservative? Like, am I really this conservative? I'm really surprised. I was always like, I'm accepting of everybody, but how that got flipped, when it was really, what am I conservative about? Well, family, love, God's creation, sustainability for the mother, truth, like I'm conservative about those things. And that was a big awakening for me too, to be like, wow, okay. Yeah, life. I'm conservative about life. Who knew? But that's what's fun too. And I think that kids get to see that. They get to see us growing and changing. It's not like, I'm here, I'm going to live here for 30 years. This is who I am. We change too. And we're changing very quickly and very dynamically, which is, I think, also a great model for them.
Well, again, it comes back to being an individual and going on our own path and not letting others influence who they think we should be, or how maybe we need to fit into this mold that's here. So it's coming back to self, and we've been trained to believe that it's selfish, I guess, to just put ourselves first and think about ourselves first, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's the opposite, isn't it? It's the opposite. We can't be anything good in this world if we're not being our authentic selves and working towards that every day. I really love using God now in my conversations with the kids. If I don't know, they're doing something and saying, should I do this or whatever? I'll say, well, what do you think God would think about that?
Right.
It's great.
Really?
And I do it for myself too.
Yeah.
With Jesus, you know, like it's like, how would Jesus react? What
Yes.
would Jesus do in this situation?
Yes.
So it's really nice to have that support from God, from our Creator, who is there for us. He's consistent. He's never changing, but we're, you know, everybody around us is always changing and wavering, but he's just this consistent, solid rock that is always there for us at any given time and can refer to him every time. Okay, am I on the right path? Okay, what would God do? What would Jesus be doing in this area? It's great. It's a great tool to have to keep us on track.
Beautiful. It's funny, you know, it's one of my favorite, I have so many favorite lessons from A Course in Miracles, but one of them is make no decision on your own. You know, like always ask for support, because we tend to forget, and that is the problem we have, is the separation. So the minute we connect back to source, all of the answers are there for us, but it's that willingness, that asking, that humility, that discipline of mind, that vigilance to stay in that conversation with the divine, because he's always there. She's always, it's like, God is here. We're the ones that are going, I'm going to go over here. Oh, I better go back. You know, I better come back. Oh, I just think, what's it? Now it's like, no, you better come back over here again. Like, so it's, and I think that's really good. And I was shying away from that until this community and this journey around really going deep around God with the kids, because I was so kind of confused about that as a child and not really sure around how to go about that conversation. And it doesn't come from the outside. It just comes from really being like authentic. And I'm learning so much about God as I'm sharing it with them, and through your Bible study, which I love so much, because it's like when we learn it through a kid's vision, that it's healing our inner child too. Because a lot of us have weird constructs around God that we learned from the religions we were raised in. So it's such a gift to be a parent, because it really is like, who's the teacher here? You know, like, who's the teacher? Who's the leader of this show? I don't know. You know, it's definitely a mutual experience and mutually beneficial, and created, I think, in that way. I think that too, you know, when you said selfish, you know, between selfish and selfless, like it is to be a parent, like, and to be of service to a child is a real gift, because then I'm healing my inner child, and I get to really, how would I have loved to be spoken to in this situation? You know, if my daughter's having a meltdown, or my son is upset about something, it's like how to speak to them in a way that Jesus would, you know. Wow, that'll open your mind, right?
Yeah. It's referring them to God and knowing that they can do that as well. They can just go take some quiet time. Sula is like on the mark with that. She knows when to go take some quiet time. I'm going to go take some quiet time.
Lady.
Yeah, it's good. And my son, he'll do his own little prayer thing before bed, all on his own. You know, it's just cute. But the breathing's really important, and I focus on that in my children's Bible school series, because breath is so important. Because my kids, you'll if you were to meet them, if they start getting upset, you'd see right away they start breathing. It's just an automatic thing for them now. They start deep breathing. What a great skill for them to know and learn now for life.
Yeah.
Because at any given moment, if we're feeling upset, that's what's going to ground us and keep us calm, and maybe give us that extra second or two to maybe refer to God, or do whatever you have to do before we react, and be reactive in the world.
Beautiful breath. Right? I love to see my son. Today they were arguing about something, and Ruby got upset, and he goes, Ruby, breathe. Way to go, dude. You're 5. You know, I didn't learn how to breathe until I was 21. And still, that's early for a lot of us, you know, so. And I need to remind myself every day. Aaron was saying that he used to have Post-it notes up, you know, like, breathe, you know, just because we do, we hold our breaths, we go into fear. And it's not what it was intended for us. You know, we're intended to be in the garden, to be in the bliss, to be inside the air of God, you know. Beautiful stuff. Lonnie, you're so much fun. What else should we talk about? Should we wrap it? So fun.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime. I've had such a super busy day and I need to get out for a walk before I pass out. And
I love it.
I got to do my walk today. It's been raining the last 2 days, so I haven't been out for a walk, but it's just a beautiful day. Yeah.
Get out there. And thank you for being here. And thanks for everybody in the chat. It's important that we just come together. And anyone who wants to have a conversation with me on the channel, let me know just about something deep and important. And we'll see if we can do this more regularly. Lonnie, I love you. You're fantastic. Check out Lonnie's channel. Right? Sorry about that. Check out Lonnie's channel.
Life.
Yeah. There we go. It's the friggin' Zoom.
There's a delay.
Ugh. Zoom. And I am starting my private Mighty Companions this weekend. So if you want more information on that, it is by contribution. So just be forewarned. But if you are interested, let me know. And I'm happy to talk more about that. It's conversations like this, a little bit more private, a little bit, deeper, right, Lonnie? I'm ready. Let's get in there.
Yeah, to dig into all of you. Yeah. Make sure you purge it after though, Marie. It's not your stuff. Don't hang on to it when you're healing, right?
It's true. It's true. Thank you. I love you so much for always I feel like you really have my back, Lonnie. I do. You and Kira Kelm and so many of you gals out there have really been just fantastic for me because it's been a lot. But we're doing great.
Yeah.
In it to win it. Tell God I said hi on your walk.
Okay, I will. And it'll be reciprocated because I'm due for some big changes here soon, and I know I'm gonna need to defer to and I'm gonna need support as well, probably. So
I'm around. I'm here to serve. I love it. I love it so much. It's such to be in relationship with such beautiful people. I don't know if we're people, but just all of us. We're all just really doing great work. So whatever level you're at, please just acknowledge yourself. You're doing great. If you just stopped eating eggs yesterday, way to go. Wherever you're at with it, celebrate the wins. All right. Bye for now. Bye, Lonnie. Love you guys.